A real drama is unfolding among the occupants around the fate of the village of Robotino. The occupants are still dreaming of its return, to the point that they almost refer it to the grey zone. Although some collaborators themselves recognize tactical abandonment of the village. Yesterday the Gauleiter of the occupied part of Zaporizhia region said in the morning that Russian troops did leave the village, but it was not because they were killed or forced to flee, but because they withdrew to neighboring heights and now occupy more convenient positions. During the liberation of the right bank of the Dnipro from the occupants there were also similar statements, do you remember? But this afternoon the Russian Ministry of Attack refuted this slander. They say that everything is normal and Russia continues to control Robotino. Then it will be interesting to read their justifications. The thing is, they attempted a counterattack south of the village, assembling quite a combat-capable flock. The Ukrainian Liberation Forces were well prepared for this twist of fate, so they overwhelmed the enemy up to their ears and didn't give them a chance to reclaim the newly liberated positions. But it was earlier, because Robotino has already been completely liberated more than a week ago, since August 28th, and there are no Russians there. And as the enemy suffered losses and withdrew, the Ukrainian forces managed to advance a little more towards Novoprokopivka. The AFU went on the flanks, expanding the zone of control in the place of the Russian defense breakthrough. Therefore they can only dream about Robotino, and think how to plug holes in the defense at the junctions of units. When the AFU will take the first photos from the Sea of Azov, I don't know when that will be, but it will be, the Russians will still be arguing about Robotino. And that's great. In the meantime, they suffer from phantom pains over the lost key areas. Intelligence reports that they have not yet seen any signs of the occupants' preparation for winter and attributes this to two factors. The logistics of the Russian armed forces are now so overloaded that they simply do not have the capacity to divert it to anything other than the current supply of essentials to the troops on the front lines. It is also possible that the occupiers themselves have no idea yet where they will hold their ground by winter, so they are in no hurry to prepare their positions. There are also reports that the occupants have begun to remove equipment from the forging and stamping plant in Tokmak, fearing the imminent surrender of the city. Representatives of the occupation authorities have developed plans to remove other valuables from the city. It is also already known that the AFU has cut into what is called the first line of defense in the Verbov region. Work is underway to deepen and expand this breakthrough. At the same time, it is also known that the Russians have thrown paratroopers into this area, but not to the place of the breakthrough, but to the flanks. If you open the book and read what their military science says, I am almost certain that in such cases it requires to attack the flanks of the AFU in this zone of wedging, surround and destroy the advanced units of the Ukrainian troops and eliminate the breakthrough decisively and quickly. Russian propaganda immediately began to spin the theme that the Russians are preparing a cauldron for the AFU in this place. They say they have moved away from the village of Robotino to lure the forces of the AFU into a trap. Have you noticed how beautifully the legend of the escape has changed? I have a question: why does propaganda announce to the opponent what Russia is going to do on the battlefield? Obviously, it is part of another psychological game. For example, in order to force to throw on the flanks those reserves of the AFU that can be thrown to widen and deepen the breakthrough. And the paratroopers on the flanks are to convince everyone that the threat of flank attacks and encirclement is real. Does the Russian command seriously think that it can pile meat on the offensive of the AFU without having the technical component for this purpose? Or will they risk removing equipment from key points?